We commonly hear words such as the Muslim world or Islamic world referring to the Islamic community or the Ummah. This may give us a sense of a unified community. However, the Islamic community, with its 1400 years of history and spread throughout the world, is nothing but hugely diverse. All Muslims look for guidance in the Quran and believe in the prophecy of Muhammad. But other than these two elements, they show great variation. I am Esra Özyürek, the Sultan Qaboos Professor of Abrahamic Faiths and Shared Values, and also the Director of Cambridge Interfaith Program at the Divinity Faculty, University of Cambridge. Today, I will tell you that with almost 2 billion members spread around the world, adding up to 1 of every 4 humans, Muslims show a great variation among themselves. Muslim practices vary on the basis of denomination, school of thought, national and ethnic context, and religiosity. Today, only 20% of the Muslims are Arabic speakers, and the majority of the Muslims live in the Asia-Pacific region, with largest populations in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Iran, and Turkey. Muslim communities have disagreements and contradictions among themselves on a number of issues of principle and practice. Sometimes even slight moderation might cause Muslims to be targeted by more radical elements within the same school of interpretation. When the original Islamic community under Muhammad showed great variation. The Arabian Peninsula was home to 2 very different communities before Muhammad times. On the Red Sea coast, there were trade routes from the south coming from Africa, carrying gold, ivory, slaves, and crops, and from the east, carrying spices and silk. There were rich merchant settlements in Mecca and Medina who profited from these riches. In the Arabian interior, harsh deserts and barren uplands were home to semi-nomadic herders and tribal people. One of Muhammad's great achievements was in getting the merchants of the trading cities of Mecca and Medina to pay taxes so that the raiding tribes can conquest across the Middle East and North Africa. So the community remained unified through Muhammad's life. When Muhammad died in 632 Common Era, his followers could not agree on who should be the leader of the community. According to the central message of Islam, Prophet Muhammad was the seal of the prophets, meaning he couldn't be succeeded by another prophet. However, when he died, someone needed to replace his position as the leader of the Muslim community. They soon split into 2 distinct communities, the Sunnis and the Shia. This diversion was not only about who the leader should be, but also how the religion should be interpreted. Through time, the Sunni and the Shia themselves subdivided into smaller communities around particular theological and legal interpretations. According to Sunnis, the Prophet had not appointed a successor, so the Muslims had to decide on the leader. Shiites, on the other hand, believed that Ali, Muhammad's cousin and son-in-law, should succeed the Prophet on the basis that Prophet through divine revelation designated Ali as his successor. Supporters of Ali are called Party of Ali or Shia Ali. Based on specific Quranic verses and certain sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, they argued, the Prophet designated Ali as his successor. The distinction, however, did not lie only in their idea about who should lead the community, but also about how the religion should be interpreted. In the Sunni understanding, the Caliph is the administrator and the guardian of the Islamic law and the leader of the community. For the Shia, on the other hand, the Imam has a spiritual function to interpret the inner truth of religion. Despite this difference, the first 3 caliphs were chosen by consensus. During the reign of the 3rd Caliph Uthman, a civil war erupted, culminating in the murder of Uthman by the rebels. After Uthman's death, Ali declared himself as the Caliph, but his caliphate was challenged by the pro-Uthman party, Muawiyah. The forces of Ali and chosen Muawiyah met on the Upper Euphrates in 657 CE. Ali and all surviving members of Muhammad's family were killed at Karbala, and Yazid was recognized as the de facto caliph by the majority of Muslims, except the Shia. This war split the Shia and the Sunnis to this day. Despite the long-running nature of the Sunni-Shia divide, the fact that the two groups coexisted in relative peace for many centuries suggests that their struggle have less to do with religion and more with wealth and power. Today, about 85% of the Muslims are of the Sunni sect and the 15% of the Shia sect. Shia represents the majority of the population in Iraq, Iran, Bahrain, and Azerbaijan, and the plurality in Lebanon. Sunnis are the majority in more than 40 other countries. And this distribution is also reflected in Muslims in the UK as well, where the majority is Sunni and the minority is Shia. Starting from the early years of Islam, there have been other communities of interpretations, religious political movements, or school of thoughts. What are some of these communities? Maybe you heard about Rumi and his enchanting poetry. Rumi belongs to Sufi interpretation of Islam. As Sunni and Shia interpretations developed, some people were more interested in the personal and spiritual aspects of religion. They struggled to achieve some kind of direct personal union with the divine and purification of the inner self. This tradition was influenced by Eastern traditions of Buddhism and Daoism. Sufi traditions, often seen as borderline heretical by the centers of Islamic power, have prospered in more secluded or frontier areas. According to Sufis, jihad, the struggle, is an introspective one. It has to be fought against the false, the earthly self. Those strivings produced wonderful poetry and also are associated with ascetic disciplines and also physical exertions involving music, dance, and intoxication to induce spiritual breakthrough. Contemporary Islamic interpretations and movements can be understood within the modern context Muslims live their lives. Especially in the 20th century, interpretation of Islam as a source of political identity and action came into being, mainly as a reaction to colonialism, centralization of state power, and the development of capitalist economics. The emphasis on Islamic values is not intended as a return to a past era, but represents an effort to cope with contemporary problems by renewed commitment to the basic principles. Political Islam represents one aspect of the Islamic revival that began in the 20th century. Sometimes this movement is referred as Islamism or political Islam. Other contemporary movements, such as Islamic modernism, one that attempts to reconcile the Islamic faith with modern values such as democracy, civil rights, rationality, equality, and progress, are also present. Islam continues to be a source of inspiration for people living in dramatically different conditions to understand and give meaning to the world they live in. From its very early days, Islam has been open to diverse interpretations and lifestyles. How diverse do you think Islam is today?